the better way to looking to take and make reality our Olympic boxing.
Rules, and there's an order, and the WBC is the WBC. I cannot compare to anybody else. And he signed a contract. He fought to fight for the WBC title.
But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you? So since you, the WBC, and you got the fucking green belt, which don't mean fucking shit.
Terence Crawford has just faced a shocking setback in his career, as the WBA president has officially revoked his boxing license, a decision that comes only days after Crawford filed a massive $50 million lawsuit against the WBC, sending the boxing world into disbelief and raising serious questions about what comes next for the champion.
He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount.
What started as what seemed like a simple disagreement over sanctioning fees has now exploded into a full-blown confrontation between Terence Crawford and the most powerful forces in boxing, and this is no ordinary controversy, because Crawford's stand is being seen as a direct challenge to a system that has controlled the sport for decades, shaking boxing at its core and triggering an intense response. With Mauricio Suleiman firing back publicly, Ryan Garcia calling Crawford cowardly, Eddie Hearn likening the situation to someone refusing to pay a restaurant bill, and Tim Bradley arguing that this has never truly been about money but about something far bigger, power and control, which raises the question of how one lawsuit could spiral so quickly into Crawford being effectively shut out by the very organizations that once celebrated his greatness.
I'm paying your ass shit. Fuck you talking about pay you $300,000. What makes you so motherfucking better than any other sanctioned bodies, huh?
Just weeks ago, Terence Crawford, the undefeated welterweight champion and widely regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in boxing, stunned the sport by filing a $50 million lawsuit against the WBC, accusing the organization of corruption, favoritism, and unfair ranking decisions after they stripped him of his title. A conflict that began when Crawford refused to pay WBC sanctioning fees following his blockbuster fight with Canelo Alvarez, leading the organization to strike his name from the rankings altogether.
We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000, with $225,000 going to the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need.
Crawford refused to back down and responded by taking the fight to court, saying he was being punished for telling the truth. But what happened next shocked the boxing world even more, because just days after the lawsuit, WBA officials stepped in and revoked his boxing license, pointing to disciplinary issues and violations of fighter conduct, which in simple terms means Crawford's battle with the WBC may have directly cost him his position with the WBA, a decision many believe was nothing more than retaliation, and to those who control the sport, Crawford's defiance was not seen as courage but as an unforgivable challenge, with WBC President Mauricio Suleiman once again stepping forward to defend the system.
And there's an order, and the WBC is the WBC. I cannot compare to anybody else. And he signed a contract. He fought to fight for the WBC title. He fought to fight for the undisputed title. He knows the rules. He does not want to abide by the rules. It's okay. He can go other ways.
When questioned about Crawford's growing pushback, Mauricio Suleiman stood firm and made his position clear, saying there are established rules and a system that must be respected, explaining that Crawford signed a contract, competed for a WBC title, and fully understood the regulations, but chose not to follow them, adding that if a fighter doesn't want to comply, he is free to take a different path. And from Suleiman's perspective, this lawsuit is not about fairness at all, but about a boxer refusing to operate under the same rules everyone else accepts, though he attempted to soften the message by insisting there were no personal issues, even mentioning that they signed a cardboard poster for Crawford at a convention and wished him well.
I talk to everybody. I have no hard feelings to anyone. We ended up the convention with the WBC Cares initiative. We had a very nice cardboard of champions, including Terence, and we all signed a nice cardboard signature of Terence Crawford. We're going to send it to him, wishing him the best. If the path crosses again, perfect.
On the surface, the message sounded calm and respectful, almost forgiving, but behind closed doors Crawford's boxing license was quietly put on ice, and while the WBC spoke publicly about order and protocol, insiders within the sport began whispering that the major sanctioning bodies were working together behind the scenes to slowly push Crawford out. And it was at that moment when more figures from across the boxing world started speaking up, with some standing firmly in Crawford's corner, while others completely turned their backs on him.
Say Crawford should have talked his talk before when he needed him. He wasn't talking like this. Now that he got the money, the cash, now I don't need WC to get me an opportunity. Now I'm gonna say, yo, fuck y'all, blah blah blah. To me, that's a little cowardice, on his part. But guess what? Only thing I don't agree with is why is it 330,000? That's what I don't like that amount.
Rising star Ryan Garcia had no hesitation in sharing his opinion, saying Crawford should have spoken up earlier because when he needed the WBC he stayed quiet. But now that he has the money he suddenly acts like he no longer needs them, calling that behavior cowardly, while also questioning the outrage over the fees by pointing out that the percentage and payment system has always worked this way, explaining that if you fight for their belts, you pay their fees. And for Ryan this wasn't just about money but about principle, making it clear that if Crawford wanted the honor of being recognized as undisputed, he should have respected the same structure that helped build his legacy, framing it as a generational clash between one fighter defending the system that shaped him and another trying to challenge it, until a retired champion entered the conversation with a very different perspective that left fans stunned.
You already know the damn rest, eh? Oh, this Terence Crawford is going on. But they all missing it. He missing it too. This ain't about no damn WBC.
Boxing analyst and former champion Tim Desert Storm Bradley didn't hold back, saying bluntly that this isn't really about the WBC at all, but about Hamza Shiraz and the organization finding a way for him to claim the title without having to face Crawford.
I'm gonna keep the buck with you. Oh, I want y'all to think, man. I told y'all, this is the channel to make y'all think. This about Hamza Shiraz.
Bradley argued that the sanctioning bodies weren't really disciplining Crawford for missing fees, but were instead making room for their own fighters, pointing out a connection many fans had missed. Hamza Shiraz, a rising star with influential backers, suddenly got fast-tracked for a title shot right after Crawford was stripped, leaving Bradley to warn people to consider whose fighter Shiraz really was.
It's about him getting a strap. That's what this is about. Whose guy is that? Who guy is that? Think about it. That's what this is about. It ain't about the money.
This is politics, Bradley said, emphasizing that it's about power, not principle, sparking speculation that Crawford's punishment was less about money and more about controlling which fighters advance and which get pushed aside, while on the practical side, promoter Eddie Hearn weighed in with one of the most memorable analogies of the entire saga.
What he did is a little bit like going out to a restaurant, having all the best caviar and lobsters, and the bill comes and you go, I ain't paying that, and you just walk out.
Eddie Hearn, famous for his blunt style and business-first approach, put it simply, it's like going to a restaurant, ordering the finest caviar and lobster, and then refusing to pay the bill, adding that if you want to be undisputed and claim that belt, you can't take the rewards without following the rules. Enjoying the meal but skipping payment isn't allowed.
You sat down at the table, you wanted to eat all the good stuff, you got to pay your dues and you got to pay your bill. Now what he will say in answer to that is, yeah, but the bill was too much. It's like, no, the rules are their rules. They can actually inflict a 3%.
Hearn did recognize Crawford's point that the sanctioning fees were high, but stressed that rules exist for a reason, noting that the WBC had even lowered the typical 3% fee to under 1%, meaning Crawford's total came closer to $300,000, far from the millions he claimed.
Sanction fee across your whole purse. What Maurizio's saying is, no, what we did, it actually worked out at 0.06 or 9 or whatever it was. But Terence is looking at it going, well, it's 300,000. But it does. You wanted the opportunity to call yourself an undisputed.
For Hearn, this was never corruption. It was just the price of prestige. But for Crawford, it proved the system was stacked against fighters who dared to challenge it, and that leads to the bigger picture. This battle has never been about money, it's about control over boxing's future. With his WBA license revoked, Crawford is now effectively shut out from competing under any major sanctioning body. He isn't officially banned, but his name has disappeared from the rankings, and without that recognition, no promoter can legally arrange his next fight under standard sanctioning rules, leaving him blacklisted and exiled from the very system he once helped define.
And it is just regrettable. Not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route, no response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great, it's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
Insiders see this as retaliation for Crawford's $50 million lawsuit, a stark warning to any fighter thinking of following his path, which for Crawford means no sanctioned fights, no title defenses, and no paydays under the WBA's control, a form of erasure driven not by performance but by politics. Yet, the irony is that while the system thinks it silenced him, this may be the moment Crawford's voice grows even stronger, sparking a long-standing debate. Should fighters be forced to pay sanctioning bodies that already profit from their names, or is it finally time for boxing to embrace transparency?
You don't have to be a fucking rocket scientist to see what's going on with all these guys. They're all these guys that are crying the loudest are the fucking problems. They're the problem, every one of these guys.
Even Dana White, the UFC president, recently chimed in, calling boxing structure outdated, bloated, and broken, while Errol Spence Jr. added that there needs to be accountability for where sanctioning fees actually go, questioning whether the money is funding fights or just funding parties.
Definitely change. We definitely see, there need to be some account of where's the money going, because, we don't know. Is it going to, because all we see is like them having, big dinners at fights and big dinners fights and, they have big, what's the things they be throwing? Big annual conventions and things like that. So
fans are now asking the same question. If fighters like Crawford can be stripped, sued, and silenced for speaking up, who truly controls boxing? While his license is gone, the controversy he sparked could lead to the biggest reform the sport has seen in decades. Crawford may have lost his official titles, but he has become the face of a new kind of resistance, standing alone as a world champion without a country. Stripped of his belts, sued by the WBC, and rejected by the WBA, he faces it all without backing down. As one voice in the boxing community said, they can take his belts and his license, but they cannot take the truth. The system is finally being challenged. Outside the ring, Crawford is fighting the most critical battle of his career, a fight for fairness, respect, and the soul of boxing itself. So, what's your take? Did the WBA go too far canceling his license, or did Crawford overstep by defying the system that made him a star? Share your thoughts, because this story is far from over, and if you think this was intense, just wait to see Crawford's next move.
You can take the fucking belt. It's a trophy anyway. The fuck am I paying you every time I step foot in the...
Alright, everyone. For the latest updates on boxing news, highlights, events, and everything happening in the ring, make sure to subscribe to Knockout Updates and turn on notifications so you never miss top quality content. Don't forget to check out our other videos, and until next time, peace out.